Hi and welcome to the Mindful Art Room. I'm Miss Dewan. For this demonstration, I'm going to be showing you how to make a slab cup or slab mug if you want to add a handle onto it. So you're going to be deciding exactly how tall your cup is and how wide your cup is. So grab a piece of paper and use this as a way of figuring out what you like. Using a pen, just mark how tall you want it to be. With your ruler, measure how tall that is on one side, and then measure the same on the other side at the same height. Then connect the dots. And look down on the top just to see how wide I like that cup to be. Make a mark where you have the overlap and measure on both sides. So now rolling out the clay, I know that I need a piece of clay that is at least this big and probably a little bit longer so I can do the foot. I'm going to start with about a grapefruit size block of clay. It's about 1.5 pounds. I like my cups to be a little bit on the thinner side than my bowls. So I've got dowels that are 1/4 inch. Start by smashing the clay down. Flip it every once in a while so it doesn't get stuck. And then roll it out. You can use a rolling pin, or if you have a PVC pipe or a big dowel, or even a glass jar at home that's round, that will all work. When working with slabs, you want to be really gentle when you move the clay around. Be really gentle. Use full palms and full hands to move the clay around really, really gently. So we're going to use the rib on the clay for 3 different reasons. One is to compress the clay. The clay likes to be compressed. The second reason is to see if there's any air bubbles. Now I do see an air bubble there. All I need to do is take a needle tool and pop it, and then go back over it with my rib and to smooth that out. The last reason to use the rib is to get rid of any unseemly textures that you don't want. Really gently, using both palms again, flip it over to the other side. Taking your template, place it on the clay, but move it over to one side so it's not directly in the center. Press it down on the clay so it sticks. And then to ensure that you have straight edges, you still want to use your ruler to cut out this template. Hold it down with your non-dominant hand and cut off. At this stage, I like to decide where the bottom is and where the top is, because the top edge, I want this edge to be rounded and even beveled on the inside. That's a lot easier to drink out of. So you can take your finger and some water and just smooth out this top edge. You can also use a sponge to compress that. So really gently, I'll show you. That makes a big difference when drinking out of it, just smoothing the inside of the rim. Now place it really gently on the table and curl it around itself to make it into a cylinder. You want to overlap these 2 edges, because if I scored and slipped it like this, I would have a really thick spot. I need to cut it at a 45-degree angle. I want this to be 2 beveled edges that come together perfectly. This will make a much stronger connection. So if that bevel cut feels awkward in your body and is kind of challenging, another way you could do that is with the clay straight on the table. I'm going to show you with this little scrap of clay. Using your ruler, push it back from the edge about 1/4 inch and use your cutting tool. You need to hold this at an angle this time. Instead of straight up and down, hold it at this angle, press against your ruler, and then cut off that bevel. Score and slip these two edges. And then line them up, overlapping those beveled edges really, really gently. And then press the seams together. So without the clay, what that looks like is hand on the inside, my finger pressing into my finger, going up. Creating the foot and the base to your slab cup can be as simple as taking your cylinder and placing it on a flat piece of clay and tracing it. Or if you happen to have something that's round, that's approximately the same size, I have this lid here that's a little bit bigger than my slab cup, and I'm just going to use that. If you find that your cylinder is a little bit wonky, which it usually is, place it on your funnel or a funnel to get that nice and round again. Score and slip the base as well as your cylinder. And this is where I'll compress. I know it's going to be hard to stop, but trust me, when the clay is plastic like this, you don't want to fuss with it too much more. I would just leave it right here. I know there are a lot of things that I want to do. I want to smooth out the rim. I want to smooth out this seam. I want to get the foot a little bit more the way that I like it, but it's plastic. It does not want to be fussed with. Otherwise, it's going to warp and not look very good. Won't have good craftsmanship. So I promise you, put it in your box, wrap it up loosely, and we'll come back to when it's leather hard. Now that my slab cup is leather hard, now I can move on to the next steps. So you've added the foot, you've added this part right here to connect it all together. You need to compress all of those seams. Remember, clay likes to be compressed. That makes it stronger. So on your banding wheel, put it upside down, and you need to compress the bottom to the cylinder. A couple ways you can do that. With a rolling pin, you can just roll it, compressing it that way. Another way you could do that is using your paddle. And this has two different ways of changing it. You can compress it by just pressing down and tapping it, or you can even compress it at an angle and you'll get a different form. Either way is fine, it's just making a decision. You can see that I now have a lip that's going over. This is the foot. You can keep that. You can even carve that off or blend it together. That's completely up to you. Grab a paintbrush. Don't use the bamboo paintbrush because that's used for glazing. Dip in a little bit of water and go on the inside and compress that together. Same with this inside seam and the outside seam. You can definitely keep it like that, or if you want to smooth that out, you can do smoothing by taking a metal rib and scraping that and smoothing that out. A little bit of water smooths the clay out really well as well. So taking a damp sponge and going over that seam, maybe using your finger, or even a rubber rib will do the trick as well. While you have that sponge, that damp sponge, go over pretty much everything to make sure it's all smoothed out. Especially this rim, this foot that I just created, smooth that out so there's no crumbs and no cracks. Smooth out the inside of the seam. So notice how this rim is angled on the inside outward. The outside is still straight up and down, but this inside has that angle that we created before we even put the slab cup together. You want to reinforce this. Take your metal rib, hold your metal rib at an angle, and just scrape along that rim to reinforce that bevel. Then take your damp sponge and go over that rim again. So there you have it. That's the basics of making a slab cup. Pretty simple, making a cylinder, making the base, smoothing everything out, especially those seams. And then you have a lot of possibilities. This is a blank canvas. So what do you want to do with it? You could carve into it using that sgraffito tool or even a loop tool. You could add on underglaze and then sgraffito through it to reveal that whiteness of the clay. You could add stamps, you could add a handle. There's so many possibilities. I want you to make a cup that reflects your own artistic ideas. And then the very last thing you need to do on all of your projects is sign it. Before you carve your initials, just make sure that the bottom is also really clean. I had a little bit, some clay boogers on the bottom there. I don't want that staying on. So I'm just smoothing out the bottom and then taking your sgraffito tool and carving your initials in. So there you have it. That's your slab cup. If you added anything today, you need to wrap it up loosely so it dries slowly together. And then once it's all ready, then it can go on the cart to be fired. So have fun with this. Bye.